50% of the buyer pool are first-time home buyers right now. So today I want to share some very helpful tips that are going to help you be successful in today's market. And even if you have purchased a house in the past, I guarantee some of these tips will surprise you, so it's definitely worth a refresher. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica Monroe. I'm a realtor in the Bay Area and I specialize in Solano County. There's a lot of great information out there for first-time buyers, but I've tried to consolidate this list to some unique tips that you likely won't find anywhere else. Number one, don't aggressively pay off your debt. Wait to speak to a lender who can look at your overall file and help you determine whether it's necessary to pay down those credit cards or your car payment, or whether it'd be more beneficial to have that cash liquid ready to go for closing costs, down payment, or to help you be a more competitive buyer. If you already have a strong FICO or credit score, you already fit into the parameters of your loan type as far as debt to income ratio, it might be more advantageous to have that cash is king, ready to go in case of a multiple offer situation. If you have to offer more aggressively, you'll have the ability to do so. A good lender will walk you through your options. It may end up being necessary to pay down the debt, but until you speak to a lender, you really won't know how to position yourself to be the most competitive buyer. Tip number two, make sure you're having conversations with more than one lender. And yes, it's okay to have your credit score run more than one time, but make sure it's consolidated in a short period of time, typically 30 days. There's a link in comments to an Equifax article that'll go more in depth about why pulling your credit more than one time in a short period will not negatively impact your credit score. Not every lender is going to have the right loan product for you, so that's why it's important to have these conversations. Now, if you see a flashy rate, one that's significantly lower than anybody else is quoting, then there's likely going to be a cost on the back end, so be careful. You want to discuss not only the interest rate that they might be able to offer, but the cost of the interest rate. Are they charging you points or excessive fees? You want to know the approximate cash to close, the cash you need to bring to the closing table. Then and only then will you have an idea of whether they're charging you significant or exorbitant fees on the back end. Keep in mind, these are just going to be projections, especially if you haven't submitted your documentation and they haven't run your credit yet. They're just going to give you a ballpark figure, but that should be good enough to understand what you're working with. After you have your conversations, narrow it down to maybe 2 lenders and go through the pre-approval process. That way you'll have the confidence in knowing that you've selected the right lender. You'll have some more concrete information in what they can offer, and you'll still have an option to go with one or the other. Once you do get pre-approved, make sure to try to keep your credit score and your spending the same. You don't want to open any new credit that can completely take you out of the running to buy a house. We want to keep you as steady as possible to make sure that you will continue to qualify for the loan. Tip number 3. Make sure that if you are shopping towards the top end of your budget, that you're paying attention to anything that could increase your monthly payments. So we're talking about HOA fees, higher than usual taxes, so if there are Mello-Roos or special assessment taxes in that development, and pay close attention to whether there's solar on the property. If there's a solar lease or a required monthly payment towards a loan, then the lender has to factor those fees into your overall debt to income ratio, and that may actually bring down the price point in which you qualify for. So anytime my buyers are shopping with houses in an HOA development or they have a solar lease, I'm having the conversations with the lender to make sure upfront that they'll still qualify for that purchase price. It's an easy way to ensure that you're not going to throw money at inspections and spend time and hard-earned cash on a house that you don't actually qualify for. Tip number 4. Once you are in contract and you have inspections done, you're going to be generating some estimates because every house needs work. And if you get to a point where you're going to ask the seller for some help with these estimates, my advice would be to ask for seller credit as opposed to asking the seller to actually do the repairs. Sellers don't have to hire licensed professionals. They can hire any Joe Schmo or do the work themselves. So you're opening up Pandora's box by asking them to do the repairs. They'll claim it was done. You'll reserve the right to re-inspect the work and find that it wasn't done properly. There's a higher likelihood that you're going to fall out of contract. So in lieu of asking the seller to do repairs, ask for seller credit. That credit will get applied towards your cash to close. So it'll help reduce the cash you need to bring to the closing table by whatever amount they credit you. And the idea is after closing, you'll have that cash in your pocket to hire the professional of your choice to do the work correctly. In my opinion, it only makes sense in a couple scenarios for the seller to be doing the work. Number one would be if it comes up on an appraisal report. Appraisers are looking for health and safety issues, and if they call out an issue, it's called a condition, it needs to be repaired or cured before closing. Then I think it makes sense to ask the seller to invest in having that repaired. The appraiser is going to re-inspect it and confirm that it's been done to their satisfaction. I personally don't believe in buyers investing into a property before they own it, meaning a buyer paying for the repairs that an appraiser called out. I highly advise my buyers against it. I just don't think it makes sense. The second scenario would be if it's an active issue such as a roof leak and it's the middle of winter and leaving it would create more damage. Then I think it makes sense to ask the seller to take care of it prior to closing. My last tip would be buyers consider looking at properties even if the pictures aren't great, even if they're poorly lit. An agent took them on their cell phone, they're a little bit distorted. Try to look past that, because if they are in the neighborhood that you're shopping in, they have the right bed and bath count, they're the right price point, don't hold it against the house just because maybe the agent couldn't or didn't spend money on marketing. You might actually find hidden opportunities here because other buyers may not entertain taking the time to view the house. It really isn't that much effort to go see the home, and perhaps it holds exactly what you want. You can at least in pictures determine what kind of upgrades are available, but seeing it in person may present significantly better than what the pictures portray. Refresh yourself on what to expect during a 21-day closing timeline. I walk you through each step above. And if you want some insight into our hyperlocal markets, check out my latest market update.